Welcome to the Eye on Annapolis Local Business Spotlight. There are thousands of locally owned businesses in the area, some small and some large. Some you may know and others you don't. But one thing they all have in common is a great story, and we want to share it with you. Join us every Saturday as we talk to the founders, the owners, and the managers of local businesses you have come to know and love, and those you will come to know and love. Now here's your host, John Frenay, with this week's Local Business Spotlight.
You know, I'm going to throw a disclaimer out here to the listeners that this spotlight may be just a bit long because, A, it fascinates me, and what we're talking about is a much needed, and I don't know whether the word service is what we want to talk about, but we are a nation built on second chances, and today's guest is working hard to make sure that that happens here in Anne Arundel County. Vanessa Bright founded the nonprofit Maryland Reentry Resource Center to help folks reacclimate to society after serving time in jail or prison. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's correct. That's
pretty
correct.
much what you're looking to do?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking to do.
You know, and I don't say that lightly, that we're built on a country of second chances, okay? We are all human. We all screw up.
Right.
I mean, I've got a notepad here and it's not big enough to list all the ones that I've done. So, and forgiveness is such a good thing. And obviously there's, you've got to, in the instance of crime and you do the crime, you got to do the time. And we get that and everything else, but there's such an issue and stigma that's associated with that as you come back out of prison or jail. And that's where you step in.
Yep, that's where we step in.
In a nutshell, I mean, explain what you do. I know that you have several different programs to work with people. And I mean, I know it's a challenge.
Right. And we call them programs just for, funder purposes or so people understand. But really, we're just trying to look at a person holistically and see what they need to be successful in their reentry journey. So, they come in, we try to assess where they are, conversation style. Some of it is, a set series of questions that we have to ask, but we really try to get to know the person because you have to dig deep sometime and unpeel the layers because sometimes what someone says is not actually what's going on. So the more you talk to them, the more you get to know them, that's how you're really better able to help them in this journey.
I've got to imagine that there's lots of hurdles that somebody has when they're coming out of prison. It's like, okay, anybody else is throwing out a resume or a job application.
Right.
The first question is going to be after the name, address, and phone number is going to be, well, which could be a problem coming out of jail, but where have you worked before?
Right.
Even just gaps in resumes. I know that, moms that take off time to be with their children that have not been in jail have a tough time explaining, well, okay, yeah, I took these 4 years to be with my children.
Right.
But I know moms have a tough time getting back into the workforce as well. I can't imagine what it's like for somebody that has recently been incarcerated.
Right. So for us, most of our program participants had a spotty work history going into incarceration. So we typically don't work with folks that, I had a job for the federal government, I did something wrong, and I have this set of skills. So we're working with people mostly that they haven't worked very much to begin with. And so while they're incarcerated, they don't get a certain level of services to help prepare them, like training and job experience that really can transfer to when you come back home, then it is really difficult. And skills, experience, and interests are a big thing. So what we find happening is people come out, they need an income. They typically, they see this program, they go do that program. Then they go do another program and none of it's ending in a job. And so what we try to do is really figure out, I ask people if education and all these things didn't matter, what would you really want to do? Because I try to figure out what people want to do to help get them in the right training program and help get them in the right job. And it's a challenge just doing that. But not having a strong work history prior to incarceration makes it really difficult when you come home.
And the opportunities in incarceration are not robust. I mean, they're very, very basic, I imagine.
They're basic and they don't really I would say they don't really build any type of skill level unless you're in a special program. Say if you were able to go to barbering school or something like that, that could lead to you becoming a barber. But most of the skills that you get, is janitorial work. It's a lot of entry level work, but people really need training so that they can get a job that's going to sustain them.
That's really the first hurdle that you've got. Okay, I mean, you mentioned barbering. Okay, let's say somebody does get some barbering training in while they're incarcerated. And they're coming down. They're coming to me, and I own a barber shop or a salon. I don't want to say instinctively, but I mean it's happening all over the place. That you say, "Well, what's your background?" Well, I learned how to barber in jail. That's a wall. That's a stone wall.
That's a wall, but also depending upon what your criminal activity was, you might not be able to get licensed. So trying to navigate the whole licensing thing with Department of Labor can also present a problem for someone. So you got the skill, you got the training, but then you come out and you can't get licensed as a barber or some other type of career path. So we need to do a better job making sure that we're trying to facilitate these processes. Like, don't have somebody go to barbering school that's never going to get a license, or if they can get a license, what's their process that they have to go through to get that license?
To get the license.
Yeah.
Wow. It almost seems like the system, and I don't think it's probably unique to Maryland, but is almost designed to set the folks that are coming out up for failure.
I truly believe it is designed for that because a lot of money is made off of people that are incarcerated. And if you shut down all the prisons, all that income would go away for some companies, not only governments, but it would go away from private companies because private companies are allowed to use prison labor.
Sure. But so, okay, so jobs is a huge hindrance coming out of there. Education, I imagine housing as well.
Yeah, housing is another big one.
And there's a lot of transitional stuff too. Like when you release, do they release to what was typically called like a halfway house or a...
Not always. I mean, you have some caseworkers that will work to make sure somebody has housing before they come out. Sometimes it's required that they have housing or they won't be released. But what I find is, and I say this all the time, everything is different from one institution to another or one caseworker to another. So it's not any consistency in what happens or what journey a person will go through once they come out of prison. So while you may have a caseworker that makes sure you can find housing, another one may not. And if you have broken those ties with your family for whatever reason, then you don't have anywhere to go. And then you end up, homeless.
I would imagine that broken family ties is probably also a pretty prevalent as well.
Unfortunately so.
And it's, I've had enough or done.
Right.
Or there's shame, there's embarrassment and everything else.
All of that.
And again, I'll go back into this whole thing too, is that we were all human and we all do make mistakes. Some mistakes are worse than others. And, for those that have never been in prison or in jail, I mean, you should be fortunate that your mistakes were relatively minor to do that.
Or you weren't caught.
Yeah, true. But how does the Maryland Reentry Resource Center, and again, the website is MDRRC.org. I mean, how do you measure your success? I mean, you're dealing with people that are coming in here that are looking for exactly what you say you do. They're looking for the resources. Okay, I am out and I need to get my act together and I need Vanessa Bright to help me. I mean, how do you measure?
We have some quantitative measures that we use, number of people served, the types of service, and how many people we serve with that. But I would say mostly we use qualitative. So what our clients are saying about us and to other people, and what our reputation is in the community. And I think we have a reputation of being a small staffed organization, but we do a lot with the resources that we have. And we have a staff here that really cares about the success of the individuals that we're working with.
One thing I'll say that I noticed when we walked into the office, you were speaking with somebody in another room and I overheard you. And pardon my language, but you sound like a woman that takes no bullshit.
I mean,
and you tell it like it is.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I can be a softie in my I have my staff to let me know when I'm doing that. But I also like people to be realistic. And if you're coming and you have this grandiose idea and it just doesn't make sense and it's not going to work, it's for me to explain that to you, and that's what I do.
You are not a government agency.
No.
You are an independent nonprofit.
Correct.
And obviously, it takes money to work. I mean, you've got a staff, you've got volunteers, I'm sure that
Yeah,
work.
we have both.
And
interns also.
you can donate. You take donations?
Oh, definitely.
MDRRC.org, but you're not a government agency, but you are adjacent, I guess. I mean, I know that most of the police departments have a reentry type of a program, and I think that's probably more to keep track of who's coming back into the city. I mean, they help them and everything else like that. But I mean, what's your relationship with the police departments, whether it be Anne Arundel County or Annapolis City or?
So our relationship is really with the Annapolis Police Department under Chief Jackson. He kind of came on board the same time I launched. And, when I met him, I introduced myself and told him what, I was doing. And he's a believer that, we can't arrest ourselves out of this situation and that people need support, and we need to solve the issues of poverty and lack of employment and lack of opportunities.
Transportation.
So, yeah, all those things. So what happens is, his team, they're boots on the ground. So they meet the people first. They refer a lot of folks to us for services, as well as some other partners that have been established by Robert Horn, who, heads up that division. And so we just work hand in hand doing what we can to support people in this journey. We get referrals from a variety of sources, so I'm sure they've referred folks.
Well, unfortunately, you probably have more referrals than you would care to have here in the city. I mean, the city does have its problems.
Yeah, it does.
Which is, you touched on those bases too. I mean, you talk about jobs, you talk about opportunity and transportation. I mean, folks that have that opportunity, that have the transportation, that have the accessibility to jobs, are the ones that are going to succeed. And again, I think when you're coming back in from a prison situation or a jail situation, what's the difference between prison and jail?
So prison is the state system, and it's longer term, or federal system, longer term. Jails are like the detention center, which is run by the county, Ordnance Road and Jennifer Road. So they're pre-sentencing, I believe, at Jennifer Road, and then they might be serving a 18-month sentence or finishing a prison sentence at Ordnance Road. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
After release, when does someone come to the Maryland Reentry Resource Center? I mean, is this something like, okay, I picked up my bag of belongings that I had when I came in here, and I got the taxi cab waiting outside. You see it in the movies, the taxi cab waiting outside the gates, and here we come.
And that's not true.
No.
A lot of people don't have any way to get to their next destination.
Totally off topic. My son-in-law is a cop down in North Carolina, and in North Carolina, when somebody is released from jail, they are required to pick them up no matter where they're jailed.
Okay.
And deliver them back to their home.
Well, that's a nice system to have.
And it's and I know it used to drive him crazy when he'd pull that shift and they'd be like, okay, he was on the East Coast of North Carolina. We need you to drive to Asheville because some guy did some time out in Asheville, 8 hours away.
I mean,
pick them up and bring them back here.
Yeah, I was on a call with Superintendent Klein that is responsible for Ordnance Road and Jennifer Road, and he actually wanted a bus stop that was closer to the jail so people would have a way, because it is an issue we don't have anything right now.
When do they come for your services, Vanessa? When do they, is it, do I go home and hug my mom? Do I go home and get some good food? Or do I come to the Maryland Reentry Resource Center?
So we've been in existence 6 years. And I would say initially, most people had been out for a while, years, sometimes more, and we're still struggling. Today, we're getting more people that, okay, I got out last week, I got out 2 days ago, coming to us. And that's because we have more relationships now with the prison and jails themselves. So the case managers are talking to my staff prior to folks coming out. But it just varies. I mean, we've had people been in 20 years, coming to us. It really varies.
What's their mindset need to be when they come out?
They really need to be able to forgive themselves, make any amends that they feel they need to make, and then just be positive about, I'm going to change my life and I'm going to do the work. We're here to help you, but we can't drag you kicking and screaming. So you have to want to do it. You have to want it. We have staff that's, very good at encouraging people because, every now and then somebody's just not going to feel so great that day. And so the staff is equipped to do that. But you really have to have a made up mind that you want to change your life. And hopefully, that starts while you're incarcerated, that you don't wait till, I'm out and then make that decision.
Sure. I would imagine the first time the handcuffs get slapped on you at the arrest is probably a good time to rethink your choices.
Yeah, rethink your choices. And I believe people should start working on their reentry journey. Like, okay, I give you a day, you get in there, you wallow in pity or whatever you need to do, get to know people. And then you start thinking about what your plan is going to be. Because you have that sentence. You pretty much, for the most part, know how long you're going to be in there. If you start setting the goals now, like, oh, I need to take this program. Oh, I don't have my GED. I need to do this. I need to make amends with a family member so I can have somewhere to go. I believe in that so much. I created this workbook for folks that are incarcerated, and we sell it on our website and through Amazon to help people start that journey as soon as they get in and not wait.
It's funny. I talked to a guy up in Glen Burnie that was an immigrant. I'm trying to remember where he came from. Uzbekistan, I think.
Okay.
With like $200 in his pocket, and as a great story and he wrote a book called The Immigrant's Handbook. And again, it was based on his experience, very similar to what you're telling me. Is okay. These folks that probably have not been in jail before. That's like, okay, now what do I do? This is the step-by-step guide.
Right.
This is, for the immigrants thing, he was like, okay, here's how you get a social security card. Here's how you do this. Here's how you navigate public transit. Or
right. And we have that in the workbook because the credentials, those are essential. So if you come out, don't have a birth certificate, and those are things we help people with, get their birth certificate, their IDs. We send people to driver's education. We pay for, learner's permits and those things. But the sooner you start that journey, the better. I started this journey because I taught financial literacy for the University of Maryland. I was an extension educator. And so I taught in the community and I ended up teaching in a prison. And so I learned a lot about prison during that experience. But I also, learned that if people have this time on their hands, why not do something productive? Why not figure out what you want to do next in your life? I used to teach an entrepreneurship class, and a lot of people were interested in entrepreneurship because, nobody asks you, have you been to jail when you come to do their carpet or
a lot of barriers are gone.
Fix their HVAC. So a lot of those barriers are gone, and you don't, so I thought that would be a good thing to teach folks, and that's what I did. And also managing your money. So they don't make very much while they're in prison. I remember saying this to somebody in the governor's cabinet, that why can't we pay them minimum wage? He's like, nobody's going to go for that. So, they make, less than $1, some really low. So you really can't save a lot of money. And then the commissary prices are astronomical. So that, that's another barrier. But if you start saving from day one, you're still going to have more than if you start from the end of the sentence.
The end of the thing, sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you have some money to come in and get a start with.
Your handbook's got to be an invaluable resource.
Yeah, we think so. We use it when we're teaching life skills. We've had campaigns where people have bought them for someone incarcerated, and then we ship them to that people, or we ship batches. We don't ask the incarcerated individual to buy them. We ask somebody else that cares about this to buy it for somebody.
Well, that's one thing that people need to remember too, that, it's very easy to look at folks that are in jail and go, oh, they're bad people, they're in jail. Okay. But, again, they've made a bad decision at some point. Okay. And sometimes that's not necessarily true. You hear the stories all the time of people that have been jailed wrongly. And Maryland pays out millions of dollars a year to people that have done it. But these are somebody's father and brother and mother. And I worked with Annapolis High School at the ICST panel, and I'm drawing blank on her name. Or her father was convicted of murdering I mean, and he did it, but he has totally turned his
Right.
life around. He's written a book on his
Mhm.
experience.
Mhm.
He's been as much as he can a part of her life
Mhm.
with the visits and everything else. And that's it's not the end of the world for the
Right.
most part. I mean, certainly, yes, there are some extenuating circumstances, but
Most people come home.
there is a
So
light.
95% of people that are incarcerated are coming back home.
There is a light at the end of the tunnel,
Yeah.
and I like to think that as a people, we're very forgiving as well to do that. Do you have a great success story that you've heard that's come out of? I know you said 6 years here, and congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But that comes to mind for you that somebody that just turned it around.
I mean, we've had several success stories of, people have gone from homelessness to having a home. But I did have a conversation today with one of my housing manager, actually, because we have a house where we do house up to 5 people here in Annapolis. And we had 2 guys, both on the sexual registry, which is another additional hurdle for
Sure.
people because that is forever. And one of them told her that, when we started, he was on the verge of just killing himself before he started working with us. And now
And I imagine you mean literally.
no,
I mean,
literally kill
suicide.
himself. Yeah, suicide. And so now, because just the hope was just gone. And so now, and I'm pretty amazed by this, we connected him with the program with the help of Officer Horn that taught CDL. He's now teaching CDL. I mean, I'm still amazed by that story.
Good.
So he went from taking a class, so now they've hired him to be an instructor in the class. We have another young man. I remember he came to us. He was one of the first people that was kind of newly out. He came, he needed glasses. We had a volunteer to help him get glasses. He ended up taking our landscaping, stormwater maintenance training, got a job at one of the storm water maintenance companies up in Brooklyn Park area, has excelled, has gotten a few raises since then, and has his own apartment now. He was like moving from house to house before. And then his brother, who's the older brother, actually saw what he was doing, and then he successfully completed the class, and he also has a job in the industry. And they're with employers that are truly about second chances, because there have been some bumps, and they supported them, through those bumps.
For the folks that come to you, I mean, are these mostly jail people, or are they a mix of jail and prison? Now that we know the difference.
Yeah, it's a mix, and it's also a mix of time served. It's a mix of, criminal activity. I try not to really get into the criminal activity. I mean, if they're on the sexual registry, I have to know that because that's an additional barrier. But I really, because we're human, and I don't really want to judge people. And so I tend not to even get into what you did. It's like what you've overcome and what you're ready to
Look forward.
to do now. Yeah.
Let's look forward. It's funny, and we adopted a policy in Annapolis a long time ago where when somebody is arrested that it's a 32-year-old male from Glen Burnie, or it's a 28-year-old female from Annapolis, or whatever it is. And it really dawned on me when there was a kid that had mugged some lady up at Arundel Mills, and of course early on there was a picture that the police sent out and the name and everything else, and he did his reduced sentence and everything else, but he was having a tough time getting a job. He says, this internet stuff is forever.
Right.
And he says, is there any way you would do it? Remove it. And I'm like, here's a guy, again, second chances.
Right.
And, use the whole trust but verify. He says, I got out. So I looked on, and it's like, yeah, sure, he did. He served time. He was released. He's got a little bit of a lead foot. He's got about 5 different speeding tickets since then. I'm like, okay, there's no crime against that.
Right.
And then I'm sitting here thinking that, how many jobs has he gone to that they Google his name or something like that, and it comes up that he beat up some lady in the parking lot at Arundel Mills. And at that point I had my aha moment, and I turned around and I took his picture down. I took his, I switched the name out, took his name out, and I went back into the Google thing and scraped it
Mhm.
out of Google. And too few newspapers will do that. And again, I mean, you look at the Constitution, we're innocent until proven guilty.
Mhm.
Okay, so my thought was like, when somebody is arrested, no, that doesn't make sense. There was a kid here I say a kid, he's a young adult now in Annapolis that lost a scholarship to play Division I football because he was at the
Yeah.
wrong place at the wrong time. The ramifications of stuff, but I mean, if they can get that second shot, hopefully they're a lot more prepared to realize not to make these mistakes again.
Right.
But also the opportunity to be able to succeed and to get beyond that is just so crucial.
And they're so some are so proud when they do. And sometimes, we had to give the tough love. One of my there was a guy that he would come in every day. He really just wanted to hang out. He wasn't doing anything. He just wanted to hang out here. And we have folks that just want to hang out here, but we are still, working.
Yeah, yeah.
And we don't have enough space to have a hangout room, although that's something we're looking at in the future. And so she put her foot down and said, "Do not come back into this office until you're ready to work." And, he thought he could come to me. I said, "No, I support that decision." And so now he's gotten accepted in Rise and Shine, who has a
Oh, yeah,
bakery
yeah,
program.
yeah.
They actually come here and interview our folks, and we collaborate. And so he's in that program. He's working towards something, but he needed that tough love to actually make a decision to do something.
Rise and Shine Bakery is great. I mean, I remember when we talked with Elizabeth. I mean, I can't remember what the number was, but it was something like at any given time, there's like 600 baking positions open in Anne Arundel County because it's such a somewhat of an entry level, but it's also a very upwardly mobile type of a thing. Once you learn how to bake, okay, then you can be a, something other chef and another, and you've got
Yep.
the ability to move up to different places. And I mean, very similar to the Lighthouse.
Right,
And,
right.
I remember my favorite bartender there rolled in. He wasn't there anymore. And I'm like, whoa, what happened? What happened? And they're like, he quit on us, and he's like the head bartender at Blackwall Hitch now. And I'm
Oh,
like,
okay.
good on him, awesome.
Yeah, I have a board member that eats there so much. I was like, you really should have stock. It's like Cheers. They know her when she comes in. Although they're beginning to know me and another, because we go there every Friday, $2 pancake.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But what else all is involved with here? I mean, I know that we briefly discussed like the Lighthouse Shelter and the Rise and Shine Bakery,
Right.
with Elizabeth Kinney and those guys. And I mean, there's social enterprises, and you have an aspect of that as well, too, don't you?
Correct. So Greenleaf is our social enterprise, and it's conservation landscaping. So a couple years ago, we got a grant from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation to pilot a program to train individuals on stormwater maintenance. So in an effort to protect our wonderful Chesapeake Bay. And then from that, we've launched Greenleaf, which is our social enterprise. So we're actually bidding on contracts to do that type of work. So it's a lot of planting native trees and other plantings, a lot of invasive removals off of trees to protect the tree canopy, maintaining rain gardens, some installation, but mostly maintenance. And we're very excited about that because we hire the very folks that are
coming in off of the other side of the door, if you will.
Right. Exactly.
That's cool.
And our ultimate goal is to create a biochar product. So we're working to make that happen from all the invasives that we're removing. Take that product, burn it through that pyrolysis machine, and create a product that's very good for the earth and keeping carbon in the ground.
You talked about your different volunteers and your staff. I mean, obviously, you guys are at basic level, you're counselors. But what's your volunteers do? What opportunities do we have for volunteers with the Maryland Reentry Resource Center?
So our interns typically come from Anne Arundel Community College and their human services program. So they actually help with the clients. They actually, do intake and assessments, help with resume writing and different things like that. We've had a few volunteers that did that as well. We have people that want to help us like administratively. So I've had people that have written grants for us. or just come in. I had one woman that just came in. She tidied up the office. She organized everything. She just wanted to give back. So we have a variety of different opportunities based on a person's interests and skill level.
And do you work, I mean, and again, we look at literacy, we'll say, coming out. Okay, so you may have a little bit of an issue. And I mean, you look at different types of say you've got a company that, all right, let's say it's a restaurant, and they are willing to work with formerly incarcerated people, and they like that, but there's a literacy issue. Do you work with other nonprofits? I mean, I know you've got across the street, you've got the Anne Arundel Literacy Council, and you've got other.
We've referred folks to them
back and forth?
Yeah, for that, yes.
To make sure that they do
because
that.
we can't do everything, and so helping people learn to read and that sort of things. We would refer to them. Anger management as a conflict resolution center. Also, the YWCA has.
The domestic violence.
Yeah, domestic violence, and they have an anger management class. So we'll refer people, there as well. So that's part of the role of the case manager when working with a client, to see what we can help them with, and then a warm handoff to help them get the other services they need from somewhere.
Well, I appreciate that you stay in your lane and know what you're going to, know where your strengths are. And, I think we're so fortunate that we do live in a very rich county in a number of ways. I mean, it seems like you have to be rich to live here.
Yeah, pretty much.
But you do have a lot of resources that are available. You've got, certainly nonprofits like the Maryland Reentry Resource Center, but I mean, you look at the YWCA, you look at Bernie House, you look at what the county does supply, what the city does supply, and there's an awful lot of resources that are available here, because I think in the end, there's nobody that wants to see somebody fail.
Right.
I don't want you to take my job, but I mean, I don't want you to
succeed in another job.
see you fail there. But I would say that if anybody, if you know somebody, or if you yourself maybe formerly incarcerated or know somebody that's incarcerated, check out MDRRC.org. There's a lot of great information there. If you are interested in this cause and making sure that we are a healthier, happier, and safer, and more cohesive community, considering making a donation. I guess you can do that online too.
You can do it online on our website.
And if you're looking at volunteering, that's also another option that you can see. There may be some sort of an opportunity there. And I would think that if you had an idea, pitch it.
Yeah.
I mean, there may be a way to do that there as well. But I want to thank you so much for not so much your time this morning, but that too, but for the thought of putting this together. And I mean, I think that gives the opportunity to those that don't have the ability just to walk out when they want. I think it's a much needed thing that we need to embrace. We do need to give second chances to people that are deserving of second chances. And that's what's going to make Anne Arundel County and the city of Annapolis a lot better, when we can all do that. But I want to thank you so much for your time as well. But thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this week's Local Business Spotlight. Please make sure to visit eyeonannapolis.net for all your local news, events, and opinion. And in case you haven't already, please subscribe to the Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief, where we bring you all the day's local news direct to your phone, tablet, or computer in about 10 minutes. It comes to you at 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday, and you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.